right, so hello everyone and welcome to the 6th SAT webinar by Elite Home Tutoring. This webinar is called SAT Reading Additional Question Types. My name is Karen. If you weren't here on the previous 5 webinars, I am the Associate Counselor here at Plexuss. We have with us Christine, who is the tutor from Elite Home Tutoring. I put in the chat to let us know your dream career here in the chat. I just want to see what you all want to be when you graduate from college, or what career you are willing to pursue. If you want to know what major you want to go into, that is completely fine as well. I'm excited to see your answers. Our recorded webinars are on YouTube. If you weren't here then, you can go ahead and access it on our Plexuss YouTube page called Plexuss Social Media. All right, so oh yeah, one more thing. If you want to ask Christine a question while she is lecturing, you are welcome to do so. You can go ahead and access that by clicking the chat option, clicking everyone, if you would like Christine to see your question as well, or you can go ahead and send me your question privately. You can also ask your question to Christine directly by clicking participants and clicking the raise hand option. Like that, you'll be able to speak to Christine directly and ask her your question. All right, Christine, take it away.
Okay, hey, good afternoon, everybody, and I hope you're enjoying this day. It is our 6th day of doing some SAT review. We've gone through one day of general information about the SAT, a few days of writing and language, and this is our 2nd day on reading, review, and question types. The first thing, I will do a little bit of review about what we said yesterday. But just remember that practice is the big key for this reading, to watch your timing, to notice your mistakes, and don't go in cold at all. Know what to expect when you're on that day of that test, and be well rested. Is there no question? Okay, very good. After today, we will move on to math. So we will have several sessions on math strategies and then specific types of questions relevant to the fundamentals, algebra, some things that you learned a long time ago that you don't remember, absolute values, and going up through some of the more advanced things. So that will begin starting next week. For starters, so today we'll do a few question types on reading, and then we'll look at a passage that we looked at last time. We'll do a little more in detail, and I'll give you some opportunities to figure out some questions and answers, and see if you can work a strategy. Okay, so I'd like to share my screen. Any questions before we get going? No? Okay. Okay. And okay. So you have seen this a little bit before. Okay, so SAT reading section, question types. Question types. Okay, oops. Okay. General information, 65 minutes for 52 questions, 5 passages with an average of 13 minutes per passage. You could look at the previous YouTube to get more information on that if you'd like. Okay, the reading, review, and question types. Always read the blurb at the beginning of the passage. It'll give you some information. Read actively by circling and marking important words in the passage, but don't take more than about 3 minutes maximum to do that first skim through of the passage. Just look for the tone of the passage and read the first and the last paragraphs a bit more carefully, since they will be the most likely to give you the author's primary purpose. So take notes of these things and apply them when you're doing the test. There are command of evidence questions that we looked at briefly yesterday. Work the paired command of evidence together. There's about 2 per passage. So I will show you what those look like.
Christine, can you hear me?
What happened? Okay.
You froze for a little bit. If you can just repeat what.
Yeah. How long was I frozen?
Maybe like 30 seconds.
Oh, gee.
Yeah.
Okay. So look for, can you hear me okay now? Okay, good. Look for the tone of the passage, and when you're doing the first read, look for like what's the narrator's tone here? Is it authoritative? Is it narrative? Those will be related to your questions. You're just kind of getting a good general overlook. Read the first and last paragraphs a bit more carefully, since they will be the most likely to give you the author's primary purpose. As I said, I believe yesterday, when you're writing an essay, you state your purpose at the beginning one way or another, and then you reiterate it at the end. So if you're getting a purpose question, you want to go to the last and the first paragraphs to get that. Okay, the next one, I said work the paired command of evidence together, and we'll look at that in a few minutes. Leave the questions related to the purpose, claims, or structure of the passage as a whole until after you've done the other questions. Why? Why wait? Because you're going to have looked at the whole bits and pieces of that passage a lot more closely by the time you're done. So if question number 1 is, what is the primary purpose of this passage? Just circle it, remind, and keep moving, and then go back. And by the end, it might become perfectly clear to you, and then you won't have wasted any time. So that's a strategy for time management as well. And then another review point is to read enough context on function questions. A function question is when it says something like, the function of these lines is to, or why did the author put these words in quote? You're not going to just read those words. You're going to read before and after, because you need to know why it was put in quotes, or why they added those lines or those questions. So that's very, very important. And then again, use the process of elimination to eliminate 3 incorrect answers and then come up with your right answer. Okay, words in context. We did not look at this yesterday. Questions. So this is a question that will say, as used in line 4, for example, the word claimed most nearly means. And you're not looking for just the meaning of that word. It is indeed a word in context. So in order to read in context, you need to always read about 5 to 6 lines before and after the word in order to get the proper context. And then we will go through these steps when we get a word in context on the passage in a few minutes. So the first thing you do is you find that word, read 5 lines before and after. Then the second thing you do is you read the sentence with the word in the question, but when you get there, put a blank where the word is instead of actually reading the word itself, because there are tricks on this test, and so hearing the word could negatively influence the choice that you make. So just say such and such blank, such and such and such, and then keep reading. So I will take you through that in a few minutes. From context clues, get a sense of what type of meaning you're looking for. So put that idea of that word in your own words. Now go to the questions and look for the word which most nearly fits that meaning that you chose. Some of them you can do it by looking at the answer choices right away and you'll get them right, but you will not get them all right if you do it that way. Some of the harder ones you will miss, and you don't want to miss these because they're a little more manageable in the reading section than the other questions. So we'll do that in a few minutes and put it into real time, as I say. And then on number 5, it says use a process of elimination if necessary. The correct answer may be an unfamiliar word. So it may be an oddball word, and you say, oh, it doesn't mean these 3, but I don't know what this is. That's not a reason to not pick it. Just be sure that it's not the other 3, and then go with the unfamiliar word. If you're taking a practice test, write down the unfamiliar word, and you might see it on a test. Okay. Any questions on that, or we'll wait until you do it in practice? Okay. There are also questions on the test that refer to graphs and tables. Graphs and tables. It's the extent of the test that is almost like a science section in the ACT. They are asking you to read graphs and tables. So you want to take careful note of the X and the Y graphs, axes in them, what the labels are, and what is interpreted in the graph. So when a question, 3 important points. When a question starts with, according to the graph, be sure that you get the information in the answer, to the answer from the graph only, not from something you read, because it says according to the graph. Sometimes something in the graph may contradict something that's in the passage. So if it says according to the graph, stick to according to the graph. Okay. Next point is when a question starts with according to the graph, stick to the information given in the graph. Do not accidentally make inferences beyond the scope of the graph unless the question tells you to. So if the graph is data, but then the question asks about emotions, and there's nothing in the data about emotions, you're not going to answer the question with something related to emotions. Stick to just the graph information, which is usually supposed to be factual. Okay. When a question starts with according to the graph and the passage, well, that's a heads up. Be sure to derive the correct answer by finding the information from the graph and table. It may appear possible to answer the questions from just the graph, but it will most likely be incorrect unless you back it up with evidence from the passage. So according to the graph and its passage means I need to match up the graph and the passage information and make sure that it's correct. Okay, and that's that for our review and types of questions. We will go to the practice test 2 that we've been looking at the last several times. And let me stop sharing for a second. Any questions while I'm doing that?
No questions. But I do have a question.
Okay.
All right. So I know you mentioned about like the according to the graph questions. For those questions that you don't necessarily read the passage, do you still recommend to read the passage?
Not to answer that question. Right. I mean, yeah, you know, you're going to want to read the passage for other questions, but not for that one. So,
all right.
Okay,
Thank you.
You're welcome. Very sneaky. I have very frequently seen people miss those questions because they only look, if it says according to the graph and the passage, they found the information in the graph, but they didn't go back it up and then it was wrong. So it's very important there. Okay, is this scrolling? Yep. Okay, good. So here's your blurb like we looked at yesterday. Passage is adapted from King, Can Economics Be Ethical? Gives you enough information. Okay. And I will do a little repeat of yesterday. We haven't read the passage unless some of you went ahead and read it yesterday. The main purpose of the passage is to, okay, so now where am I gonna, I'm gonna have read all the other questions first, but we're not reading the passage together. And then I'm going to get to this question. The answer choices are, notice the answer choices. Consider an ethical dilemma posed by cost-benefit analysis. Describing, so that's a description of a psychology study. Argue something, okay, is there an argument? And then finally examine ways of evaluating the ethics of economics. Okay, so normally, as I said, you're gonna do it last, this question last. And if you're not quite sure, don't think off the top of your head. Let's go up and read just the last paragraph together. Now, this may not be conclusive to you because we're not reading the whole thing, but let's see if you can eliminate any of the answers just based on reading this last paragraph here. So I'm going to start maybe, since this last paragraph starts with the word these, it's referring to something before it. I'm going to read a couple lines above. Reiteration of the purpose. So we behave like a herd. We fear losses more than we hope for gains. Rarely can our brains process all the relevant facts. These human quirks mean we can never make purely rational decisions. A new wave of behavioral economists, aided by neuroscientists, is trying to understand our psychology, both alone and in groups, so they can anticipate our decisions in the marketplace more accurately. But psychology can also help us understand why we react in disgust at economic injustice or accept a moral law as universal, which means that the relatively new science of human behavior might also define ethics for us. Ethical economics would then emerge from one of the least likely places, economists themselves. Okay, that's a summary pretty much of the purpose of this passage. So you can see that looking to that last paragraph is going to save you time 98% of the time. Okay, the main purpose of the passage is to, we said, consider an ethical dilemma posed by cost benefits. Can't really tell from that paragraph. Describe a psychology study of ethical economics behavior. Argue that the free market prohibits ethical economics, and examine ways of evaluating the ethics of economics. If you can, please, just from that paragraph, if you can, put a vote on which answer would be correct, A, B, C, or D. If you're not sure, don't feel like you need to be pressed to answer.
We have a B. B. Let's wait about 30 more seconds.
Okay.
Have another B, B.
Okay.
Okay, 4 Bs.
Okay. It's D, so you were close. B is the most frequent incorrect answer. The reason being that it's not describing a psychology study, but it's examining ways of evaluating the ethics of economics, which is really kind of that last line there. Ethical economics would then emerge from one of the least likely places, economists themselves. Had we read the first paragraph as well, we would have seen the continuity between it, but you can see how looking at that last paragraph is very helpful. What's wrong with B? It's not really describing a psychology study of ethical economics. It's examining ways of evaluating. So this part of it right here has nice language in it, but is not quite what that says. So just watch out for those. We would be probably down to B and D and then picking away and saying, well, wait, it's not really describing it. It's examining ways to evaluate. So still helps, still gives you some guidance as to where to go with those purpose questions. Okay, here's our command of evidence. And we're not going to pick away at them. Avoid extreme answers if they are there. But in this case, the main thing to notice is that you're going to do 12 and 13 together, like I said yesterday a little bit. And you're going to read all 4 line references because it's asking for the best evidence, not just some evidence. Okay, take your time with those. Read this line, see if it matches up. And then if you're down to 1 or 2, then pick away and find something wrong with one of those. Okay. Any questions on command of evidence questions, the 2 doubles? You know how to do them now, do them together. Okay.
No
Number
questions.
14, what's that?
No questions.
Okay, thank you. Number 14 is our words in context that we're gonna give a try to now. As used in line 6, embraced most nearly means. Don't look at the answers. In fact, I'm gonna scroll down. Don't look at them. Okay. I don't look at them because it can persuade me towards something different. Line 6, looking. So the word embraced, oops, there we go, is right here, embraced. So I'm going to, there's only 3 more lines from the beginning. So I'm not going to just start here at the paragraph. I'm going to read 3 more lines. We're talking an extra 8 to 12 seconds. That's not going to hurt me. Recent debates about the economy have rediscovered the question, is that right? Where right means more than just profits or efficiency. Some argue that because the free markets allow for personal choice, they are already ethical. Others have accepted the ethical critique and blanked corporate social responsibility. But before we can label any market outcome as immoral or sneer at economists who try to take a price on being ethical, we need to be clear on what we are talking about. There are different views on where ethics should apply when someone makes an economic decision. Okay, we've read enough. Go back to that. Some argue that because the free markets allow for personal choice, they're already ethical. Others have accepted ethical critique, and blanked corporate social responsibility. Okay, took a little time, but that's what you do. Now let's place a vote, and don't read the answers until people have voted, because I don't want anyone to be persuaded by someone else. Keep going. Okay. A, B, C, or D, lovingly held, readily adopted, eagerly hugged, reluctantly used. Use a process of elimination and pick your guess. Votes, please. Should I scroll back up?
Would it be helpful? Answer yes or no if it will be helpful to read the line again. Yes.
Okay, good. It's much easier when you have a hard copy of the test. Okay, so I'll let you guys read that. And then I'll give it 10 more seconds. Let's scroll back down. Make a final stab. You can even say it's not this or this.
We had, is it okay to say the answers?
Yes, go for it.
All right. We had 3 Bs, 4 Bs actually.
Very good. Okay, you got it. Very good. It was pretty easy when you did it that way. So, and when you're reading it silently, it is readily adopted, embraced, something of that name, in that sense. Okay, very good. So there's your strategy for word and context. We may hit one more of them, depending on our time. So the main purpose of the 5th paragraph, there's a different kind of question again. The main thing that I will say about that is that you're not going to find the answer to the main purpose in the 5th paragraph. You're going to find it by reading it in context with the 4th paragraph and the 6th paragraph. So main purpose of a particular paragraph or a particular line, it's not in that line. You need to read the line, but you need to read what before and after to see where it fits. So that's my note on that. 16, if we have time for 16, we'll look at that. I'm just trying to give you a variety of word types. Which choice best supports the author's claim? So those you're going to use your line references to find. And you make sure to go to all 4 line references, because again, it says best. Best supports means I got to look at them all, or else I don't know. Okay, and then up here, the main idea of the final paragraph, read a little bit before. Always read, if you're stuck on an answer especially, read a little more context, broaden out your reading, and don't be afraid to. Okay, data in the graph about per pound coffee profits in Tanzania most strongly support which of the following statements? Okay, let's test them. So the first statement says, fair trade coffee consistently earned greater profits than regular coffee earned. We'll read the question again. Data in the graph, just the graph, about per pound coffee profits in Tanzania most strongly support which of the following statements? Let's see if this is a true statement or a false statement. Fair trade coffee consistently earned greater profits than regular. Okay, so let's see what we got here. Here we go. Can you see the graph okay? Okay, not too small. Okay, fair trade, so I need to read this, that's the bubbles here. Is it consistent? Is it consistently, are the profits for fair trade coffee consistently stronger, better support than regular coffee? That looks like a true statement to me. Up here, there's money, there's the regular coffee. So now to be sure, So A is a possibility. Maybe A. It's looking good. Earn greater profits. Let's look at B. The profits earned from regular coffee did not fluctuate. Regular coffee, the profits earned. That's money. Amount over here. Is there fluctuation? Yes, there is. That's a false statement. It's not a straight line. B is out. C. Fair trade coffee profits increased from 2004 to 2006. Fair trade, the top line, increased from 4 to 6. 4, 6. No, false statement. Why am I going through all these? Because if somehow another one looks right, I better make sure I read that graph right. So even on the test, you want to quickly go through all 4 and make sure you didn't make a little mistake there, because they do put a lot of little traps in there. Finally, this should be incorrect. Fair trade and regular coffee were earning equal profit by 2008. Equal profit. That is definitely incorrect. So we go ahead. A is your final answer. A is correct. So you're just testing the answers. You don't have to stare at the graph without looking at the answer choices. Question 20. Data in the graph indicates that the greatest difference between per pound profit from trader coffee and from regular coffee occurred during which period? Okay, so where's the greatest difference? So you can either look at these numbers that they give you, these years, or you can go straight to the graph and find the greatest difference. So let's track 2000 to 2002. So this is just reading a graph. It's not really reading. So we see a difference here from about 50 or so, 52 to 20. And then next one, 2002 to 4. Okay, that's lower. And then 4 to 5. So I'm letting you guys vote on this one. I hope you're looking. Okay. So where is the greatest difference between the per pound profit from fair trade and from regular coffee? I saw someone vote already.
Feel free to send me your answer privately or send it to everyone.
Okay. And so take note of those years, and I'll go back up to the graph in a moment. So A, B, C, or D. Okay, here we go. Greatest difference.
We have 2 answers in.
Okay. Does anybody need me to go back to the question? So which is the greatest difference between, which years had the greatest difference between the fair trade coffee and the regular coffee? Okay, 10 more seconds.
We have a, go back to the question.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
There we go. Okay, last 10 seconds. Put your vote in. Right.
Right. We have 2002 to 2004, which is B, 2000 to 2002, which is A, and B.
Okay, so the greatest difference is where the fair trade coffee stays about the same here, but the regular coffee is lower down here. So therefore the grade is, it's lower down here. So therefore this is the greatest difference. So B is the correct answer. Okay, very good. Okay, are there any, that's our time for the reading. Are there any questions that I can answer about the reading section? Practice, 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 time yourself, notice your mistakes. Any questions about what we're going to be doing next time? Looking at math strategies.
Your questions can be about anything of the reading section.
Yeah.
In the meantime, I do have a question.
Yes.
What type of reading genres can you expect on the reading section?
Okay. You can expect one literature passage, maybe two, but from US or world literature, might be translated. And it's usually an older passage. And then you can expect a couple of social science or social studies topics. It might be something like ethics and economics, and humanities possibly, maybe something about architecture, that's possible. So social studies, humanities, and then a couple of natural science passages. Could be about space, it could be about biology, meteors, earthquakes. So yeah, a nice variety, and they will categorize your answers into categories of history and science and literature, but that isn't particularly important for the colleges. They are just looking at your total score. So if you find that one is a little harder for you, work on those types of passages. Okay. Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any last minute questions? All right. All right, looks like no more questions.
Okay.
I am going to share my screen. Okay. All right, thank you everybody for joining us today on our 6th webinar. Our next webinar will be about the SAT math test. It will be the first one about the math test, and it will be about strategies. Then it will be on Monday, April 13th at 1:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So that will be this coming Monday. We will very much appreciate it if you download our app. If you download our app, you'll be able to receive instant notifications. We will also very much appreciate it if you rate it and review us on the App Store or Google Play. We appreciate any feedback you are able to give us. Also, chat with my counselor if you have any questions regarding this webinar, or if you would like to reach out about any questions you have about higher education. We're always happy to help with that. And finally, connect with Elite Home Tutoring on Plexuss. You can access their profile by clicking on the logo on the left-hand side of the banner you see on our Plexuss newsfeed page. So yeah, go ahead and connect with them if you would like to ask any follow-up questions. And also one more thing, if you know somebody who will benefit from these webinars, go ahead and let them know. Let them know you can RSVP through that banner as well. All right, thank you very much for joining us today. We will see you all on Monday for our first math test webinar. Bye, everybody.